In this segment, I'm going to talk about three things. At the end of the segment, I'd like you to leave with 3 Ds. And the 3 Ds are donors, Docinia, and dots. Earlier on, Mr. Chia Boon Kiang actually shared with us that there are 3 secret sauces to fundraising online. The first sauce is your online presence, the online presence of your charity. The second is your database of followers. And the third is clearly a strong narrative. And this focus will be to craft a compelling narrative. But the question is, who are you crafting the narrative for? So let's take another poll. And this will be the last poll for our webinar. Now, in this poll, you are asked to identify who are the donors on crowdfunding platforms. You have a choice listed. There are 6 choices here. There are the commercial do-gooders, and these are largely corporates, or the online donors are consistent deep connectors who are individual donors, or are they enterprising foundations who are corporates? The fourth option, major gift angels, who are mostly philanthropists or social impact investor, or they could be one-off Samaritan, who are largely individual donors. And the last option is techie followers. You can choose only one from the list of 6 options. So pick the one that you think will be most representative of donors on crowdfunding platforms. Let me take a look at the results to see what your options are. So as you input the results, we will just wait another moment for everyone to complete this. So there are clearly a combination of individual donors as well as corporate donors. Who do you think are the profile of donors on your online platform? Because the who is critical to crafting your narrative. You want to know who you'll be speaking to through your narrative. Yes, we have the results. I see that a majority of you, 55%, have selected one-off Samaritan. And we have another 27% who identified consistent deep connectors. We have some of you, 14%, who also have marked techie followers, the individual donors, who are another group of donors. And then about 2% major gift angels, another 2% commercial do-gooders, and none of you have selected enterprise foundation. And most of you are right. It's truly the case that donors online are largely individuals. So the first key to crafting a compelling narrative, to always find out and begin with your customers. It's very much like your brand positioning, the 3 C's of brand positioning. The 3 C's are customer, competitor, and company. I would argue that in the context of nonprofit, your donors are your customers because the program and services that you deliver to your beneficiaries are unlikely to yield any funding. And donors, your donation is one of your income streams. And therefore, you always begin with your customer through your online fundraising. What are they? What is the profile of your donors? Who are they? You first need to understand who are your donors and who are you appealing to. So the individual online donors, what will be relevant to them? What are their needs, their value system, their persona, their personality, their worldview, or even their behavior, especially for those who are donating online, how frequently, how large are the sums that they donate. So find out about your donors, try to have an understanding of the profile. Now in this segment, we are going to focus on just 2 areas, relevance and needs in crafting a compelling narrative. This was a survey that was conducted by Singapore's National Volunteer and Philanthropy Centre, the individual giving survey that was conducted and completed in 2018. And in this survey, they found that 77% of Singaporeans who took part in the survey still prefer to use the offline mode of fundraising. And 43% of 43% of the Singaporeans who were surveyed were skeptical towards online donation appeal. Another 36% lacked trust in providing their personal information online in crowdfunding platforms. Now, does that mean that fundraising online is pointless? Of course not. This is another recent survey by giving.sg. The survey looked at the amount of donations that were collected from February 2018, February 2019, and February 2020. Look at the surge in donation in February 2020 compared to February 2019. It's a 67% surge in donation, and 15% of this donation were raised for a campaign under the hashtag SG United. And not only are donations increased, there is also a surge in volunteer signups. So SG United and COVID-19 are fueling the donation online. So the second key to crafting a compelling narrative is to have a sense of belonging. How do you appeal to your donor's sense of belonging? Clearly, most of us would like to be associated with a group. We want to feel belong. We want to affirm our identities. Social pressure will make us want to support a family or a friend. And not only that, for online donors, they are also captured, the attention will be captured by attention-grabbing headlines on your campaign. And the third sense of belonging, the third appeal for sense of belonging are studies have actually shown that donors online tend to be casual and impulsive donor, just like a snack, a donut snack, which sometimes can be quite impulsive for many of us. So to craft a narrative that appeals to a sense of belonging, try to get the donors to feel that they want to give because they belong to the alumni group, or they belong to the community, or they belong to the neighborhood. Here is an example of Hope Beyond Borders 2020. This fundraising campaign was by Ray of Hope and SG Accident Center. The campaign started because they wanted to raise funds to support the migrant workers who are here and who are most vulnerable to COVID-19 and who live in fear of COVID-19. The fundraising was started on 8th of April, and it closed far exceeding the target 4 days later. So appealing to the sense of belonging to Singaporeans in the community who recognize the contributions of these migrant workers will help to raise funds online. Another example that was just published in Straits Times yesterday or 2 days ago, it was about giving. We give in solidarity. And this, again, is familiar to all of us. We can all identify to this giving call. Now, let me move on to the third key. The third key to fundraising online is stir emotions. Stir positive emotions. Address the why. And address the why positively evokes people's sense of pride, their awe, and the wonder, not negative emotions. Not to get them to feel anxious, not make them feel sorry, not make them feel sympathy. Because we've known that many of us dread going for our annual health screening checkup because we just do not want to feel anxious with the results. So instead of the negative emotions, use your narrative to stir positive emotions. Have stories that warm people's hearts. And sometimes it may not be even your narrative, it could be the title of your campaign, like this fundraising effort by Community Foundation of Singapore. Sayang Sayang Fund, the name of the fund, Sayang Sayang, simply warm our hearts. Everyone in Singapore can relate to the term Sayang. Another fundraising campaign that I'd like to share with everyone is this campaign that was recently completed in UK by Captain Tom Moore. He started the campaign on 10 April, shortly after being discharged from NHS after his hip surgery. In the photo, you see him on his walking frame. He started the campaign on 10 April simply with a modest target. He just wanted to raise £1,000 for NHS as a show of appreciation. And in return to the donor's donation, he will walk 100 laps around his garden before his birthday, before his 100th birthday at the end of April. After he launched the campaign, in 24 hours, the donations rise through the roof. It was 70,000 within 24 hours. As at 2 days ago, it's close to 13 million pounds. This is a story of hope that inspires many of us to give. And we know and recognize that donors online are just many of us, many individuals giving a little bit to contribute to a cause that adds up to a large sum. Now, the fourth key to a successful or a compelling narrative is to imprint an image of your story in the minds of your donors. Be real. Tell the story as if you're speaking to a trusted friend. And your story can be about people. It can be a story of recovery, about yourself or your hero who lapsed into the abyss of despair, into a crisis, and eventual recovery. Or it can be a story about your beneficiary and how your cause inspire your beneficiary. It can also be a story about a place that has certain values that evoke people's sense of belonging. So think of the image of your narrative and use that image to connect with your potential donors. This is a story, or rather this is a campaign by Linda of Marymount Centre. And this campaign, as you can see from the picture, it's about chicken rice. And what about chicken rice? She merely wanted to gift the girls in Marymount Centre this simple treat, chicken rice. She started with a donation amount target of $3,000 and it has far exceeded that value. So use that picture that we can all relate to, a simple treat that everyone will be willing to give to. The next key, the fifth key, is to have new and fresh perspectives. Offer a new perspective through your narrative, a perspective, a different angle that most of us are not aware of. Recall the film Parasite by the South Korean movie producer. In the show, there was a contrast between the have and the have-nots. We see a side of South Korea. It's not just good-looking and polished men and women, but the destitute who live in half-basement and their homes are flooded whenever there is a downpour. We learned about them through the lenses of the producer. So likewise, provide your potential donors with new perspective about the why. Why are you doing something? Why are you making the sacrifices for the community? This is one example by Montfort Care. This campaign was launched on giving.sg, and it is about grief and bereavement support. Many of us know very little about grief and bereavement support. The loss of a loved one can cripple us and affect our lives. And through this fund, what Montfort Care wished to do is to help reach out and support their outreach to the bereaved so that the bereaved can move on and move forward in their lives. The next key that I'd like to share with everyone is the sixth key, and it is impel user action. On the fundraising platform, you can compare that to the purchase decision stage, or rather the customer journey. The donors on the crowdfunding platform is already at the purchase decision stage. They are at the stage where they are shopping for a cause that they can connect with emotionally, and they want to gift to that cause. So instead of writing your narrative to raise awareness, write your narrative to raise funds. Stir emotions and tell them what you need from them, why you need from them, how they can make a difference with each donation tier. What are the different donations tier that you have from fundraising? And not only that, after you've explained to them the different donation tier, thank them, stay connected with them. And the moment you launch your fundraising campaign online, monitor your campaign closely, because studies have shown that there is such a thing called the completion effect. In other words, donors are more willing to give larger sums at a faster rate when the donation is near its donation target, so that they can personally achieve the fundraising target. So whenever you do a fundraising online, ensure that you monitor the campaign, not just start the campaign online, and help the donors understand what is the difference that they are making through each donation tier. Now, here is an example. On the left, you see the Lia Moi Caring Fund. The fundraiser has identified how the funds raised will go towards helping the residents, the family members, as well as the staff of Lia Moi Nursing Home. On the right, this is by Serving Persons with Disabilities. It's another fundraising campaign. Now, on the left, Lia Moi Caring Fund. This fund has actually explained to potential donors how the funds will be used. Whereas we can do a lot better by identifying, breaking down the donation tier. So this fundraising campaign by SPD actually identifies specifically for $1,000. You could actually buy a notebook for a child with special needs so that he or she can continue home-based learning now that all the special needs schools are closed. And if you do not have $1,000, how about $600? Because with $600, we can start early intervention for these children with special needs, and so on and so forth. So use your donation tier to explain and convey to your donors what's the difference they can make. Raise donation, not awareness through your fundraising narrative. The seventh key, act fast to build your online presence. The current global pandemic has changed our lifestyle tremendously. Many of us who were not users of the World Wide Web have started to go online to search for information, because we are all searching information about COVID-19, about SARS-CoV-2. And not only that, we are using the World Wide Web to shop, to connect socially. So this is the best time to build your fluency and capabilities in social media, to start ensuring that you have a robust websites and presence online. So build your online presence and cultivate your donors as well as your new donors, and keep them informed, stay connected with them about what you're doing for your community, and not only what you're doing for the community, how do you spread hope in your community and neighborhood during this pandemic situation. Now, to summarize, these are the 7 keys to crafting a compelling narrative online. Dulcinea. Dulcinea is the name of an orchid species from the orchid family. For those of you who know Dulcinea, also known as jewel orchid, it doesn't look like that. It actually looks quite boring, but I drew this just so that you have the image in your head and you remember Dulcinea. Now, Dulcinea spelled as D-O-S-S-I-N-I-A. D-O is donors. Remember, the first key is your donors. Who are you appealing to? Second key, sense of belonging. Appeal to your donor's sense of belonging. Evoke the sense of belonging. We all want to feel belong to the community, to a group. The second S, or rather the third key, stir emotions. Address the why. Warm people's hearts. I, imprint the image in your potential donor's mind and offer new perspectives. I, impel action. And last, act fast, Donicia. So Dulcinea, I'd like you to remember Dulcinea to crafting a compelling narrative. Crafting a compelling narrative will grab the attention of your donors. It will motivate them and move them emotionally to want to give. But a compelling narrative is not enough. What you want to be aiming for are 2 main groups of donors. The group that are consistent, deep connectors whose sustained giving will ensure that the continuity of your programs and services. Consistent, deep connectors who are giving to you on a regular and continuous basis also ask the hardest question. So while you learn and craft how to craft a compelling narrative, you want to ensure that you continue to measure your program impact, continue to collect data about how you are meeting and fulfilling the needs of your community. The second group of donors whom you want to target for online fundraising are what we call the techie followers. These are the contagious givers who not only give to you, they tell their friends, they tell their family members, they tell their whole network in social media to give to your cause. And these are the ones, almost like what Boon Kiang told us earlier, volunteers who are donors, donors who are volunteers. So these are the two key groups that you want to aim for in your online fundraising effort: consistent deep connectors and techie followers. Allow me to borrow a concept from epidemiology, DOTS, or rather, let me start with R0. R0 stands for the basic reproduction rate of a disease. Now, it measures the average number of persons who will catch the disease from a single infected person. The public health experts and epidemiologists tell us that there are 4 factors that feed into R0. The 4 factors are D, duration, the duration that the infected person is infectious; O, opportunity, that the spreading opportunity for the infected person; T is the probability that the spreading opportunity will lead to a transmission; and 4 is susceptibility of the population to the disease. So DOTS pretty much sum up the 4 factors that feed into R0. A high R0 would suggest that the disease is highly contagious. In the case of fundraising online, your target is a highly contagious giver. So if I may rephrase it and reframe it for you for fundraising campaign, D is for the duration of your campaign, the current context and climate. O is your online presence, such that you are present across different social media platforms that creates an echo chamber for your potential online donors. T, turning the feelings into giving. And S, seizing the donor motivation for sustained giving and support. DOTS are the keys to drive your fundraising campaign. So with this, we've come to the end of this segment on how you can craft a compelling narrative for your online fundraising campaign. And the 3 are donor, .senior, and DOTS. Okay, I'm going to take this question from Magdalene of Garden City Fund. Okay, and she says here, when crafting thank you letters, I'm sure all of you can see her question. When crafting thank you letters, is there a minimum amount before you send a letter or email? So the immediate response is there isn't a minimum amount. Even if it's a small amount, please do reach out to your donors and express your gratitude and stay connected with your donors. Yes, okay, this question is from Alicia. Hi, Alicia. And she asks, would you suggest running campaigns simultaneously across various platforms? Now I'm going to take a risk here to answer this question. And the reason is simply because there is not much data shared about donors' profile on fundraising platforms. But my very cursory research of different fundraising platforms is it tends to appeal to different groups of donors. Right? So if I just look at the fundraising campaigns across different platforms, you'll notice that the campaigns differ in styles. And from there, my guess and my hunch is the donor's profile is likely to be different across fundraising platform. So I would suggest that when you want to start a fundraising campaign, start off with maybe 2 first, monitor the response, see how the potential donors and users of these platforms are responding. Identify, is one narrative more appealing to this group on one platform versus this group on platform 2. Yeah, so you can test it out first. And over time, you will be able to see a trend that there are certain profiles that tends to respond on a certain platform, whereas another profile on another platform. So you need to even tweak your narrative to appeal to different donors' profile. I hope that helps. Okay, one last question. Okay, so this question is about where do they go if seeking donation in kind? Now, if I'm not wrong, I recall rightly that Giving.sg also allow volunteers. So you could actually put up your request for volunteers through giving.sg as well. So it's not just raising funds. You could also use a few of these platforms like giving.sg to call for the volunteers. All right, so in summary, we have 3 segments in today's webinar. The first segment, we have COC Dr. Ang set the stage for us about fundraising online using the parent framework. And I trust you still remember what the parent framework is. In the second segment, we have an interview with Mr. Chia Boon Kiang of Satacom Health, and he shared with us his experience raising funds online. And we learned from him that not only do you need to have online presence and you need to have that social media presence, you also need to choose the right platform because the choice of crowdfunding platform impacts your brand. And lastly, I shared with you 3 things: donor, .senior, and .dots. With this, I'd like to thank you all for joining us in this webinar. Stay connected with us, keep safe, keep healthy, and we also would like to thank Minister for joining us at the start of today's webinar. Remember to give us your feedback. Take care of yourself, take care of your families, continue to help one another. Till we meet again online, goodbye.